Tonight's pot roast is off limits to you. Here, have this instead. But this is leftover soup and salad from 2 days ago. It might have gone bad. You can handle it, right? Don't be wasteful. Eat up. I don't want to waste good meat on you. I can eat this. What was that? Leftovers are perfect for you. Stop complaining and eat up. My mother-in-law always directs such nastiness towards me. She's so obnoxious, it just gets under my skin. My name is Mary, a 27-year-old woman juggling both work and home responsibilities. I got married only a year ago, so I don't have any kids yet. Right now, we're living with my husband's family in their house. I never wanted to live with my in-laws, but since my husband is the eldest son, we didn't have much choice. I thought it was ridiculous to live with my in-laws in this day and age, but both my husband and my mother-in-law hold on to old-fashioned values. Moreover, my father-in-law is no longer with us, and my husband expressed his concern for his mother. I have no idea what he's worried about. She's still so full of life. My brother-in-law is single and working overseas, so I guess that's just how it has to be. But I still hate it. Now even my husband has started being mean to me, following in his mother's footsteps. He never said anything mean before we got married, but his attitude changed drastically. I feel deceived. He's always acting superior and he always yells at me. It gives me a headache. Hey you, why is my shirt so wrinkled? Ha, is it wrinkled? Yeah, I'll be embarrassed at work like this. Can't you even iron properly? Why can't you do something so simple? No, I did iron it. Your properly is not proper at all. Realize that. What a useless wife you are. That's so mean. You don't have to say it like that. Are you talking back to me? Your face is as wrinkled as this shirt, and you're annoying. Seriously, you look older than you are. It's a turnoff. Oh really? Before we got married, he used to call me adorable. He treated me like a princess. But now he insults my parents and laughs about it. I don't understand why he would say such a thing. I'm not wrinkled or anything. It crossed my mind that he's actually balding for his age. I even found myself wishing that he would go completely bald one day. Our marriage is still pretty new, but I'm concerned about the future. Sometimes the word divorce even flashes through my mind. I was exhausted every day, and once I finished the housework after getting home from work, I felt like I was about to collapse. But my mother-in-law never helped with the chores. She seems to spend her whole day blankly watching TV. There were crumbs from snacks on the floor in front of the TV, and a lot of them. I had to clean them up, and I wish she would at least use a plate. Then, after dinner one day, my mother-in-law started to speak. Hey, let's all go to a spa resort when the new year comes. Oh, that sounds great, I replied. All right, I'll make the reservation. I'll get on it first thing tomorrow. Thanks, Mom, my husband said, beaming with joy. My husband and mother-in-law seemed very happy. I didn't really want to go with these people, but I was interested in the spa resort itself. I love visiting spa resorts, and this one was famous enough to be featured on TV recently. I thought it could be a great memory if I could ignore these annoying people, so inside, I was actually excited. After this, my mother-in-law said she had something to discuss. I wondered what it was and headed to the living room. You know we only have a small car, right? So, I was hoping we could borrow your family's minivan. After all, we can load lots of luggage in it. Alright, I guess my father has both a minivan and a small car. He usually commutes in the small car and uses the minivan for shopping trips or camping, which is his hobby. When I called my father, he readily agreed to lend it to us. With that, we welcomed the end of the year vacation. I had to clean the house, so it was again incredibly busy. However, thinking that a spa resort was waiting for me after getting through this year-end period helped me push through. As expected, my mother-in-law wouldn't move from the sofa. She laid there all the time, looking like a statue. Then, the morning of New Year's Day arrived. I woke up thinking about the long-awaited spa resort, but was surprised when I looked at the alarm clock. I had overslept. What? It's already 8:30, but David isn't here. Why? My husband, who should have been sleeping next to me, wasn't there either. I thought he might be in the bathroom, but he wasn't. Huh? Where is everyone? Did they go somewhere? I peeked into my mother-in-law's bedroom, but she wasn't there either. I began to wonder if they left without me. In a panic, I checked my smartphone. I always charge my phone in the living room before going to bed. There was a text notification on my smartphone. It was from my mother-in-law. We're going to have fun. We never booked a place for you. You can spend a lonely New Year. It's okay if the bride doesn't come. So my mother-in-law never intended to take me with them from the start. and she planned to enjoy it with my husband. I was really sad at the same time. I was also very angry. It's terrible to deliberately stop my alarm clock to make me oversleep. I suspect the reason she made me drink a lot of alcohol the night before was to make me pass out. I regretted drinking that much, although it's a relief that she didn't drug me. I was irritated about her pushing drinks on me. Well, there's nothing I can do even if I get angry, so I decided I had to enjoy myself alone at home. I really wanted to go home to my parents, but they're also away on a trip by plane, so it's pointless to go back. Though I ordered a pizza for delivery that day and spent a lonely day. Then my mother-in-law and husband returned from their trip. They had broad smiles on their faces. It was so fun. It was the best. I want to stay there again, of course, without you, Mary. Here, this is the souvenir. What is this? It's a stone I found lying around. It suits you perfectly. Oh, is that so? I couldn't help but think that my mother-in-law was extremely spiteful. Frustrated, I went to return the minivan to my parents' house. I thought they would be home by now. When I arrived at my parents' house, my father came to greet me. Did you enjoy the spa resort? That famous spa should have been quite satisfying. I didn't go because I'm the bride. Well, I was told by my mother-in-law that it's fine if the bride doesn't come. I was left behind when I woke up in the morning. No one was there. What? After that, my father started to do something. Then he had me sit in the passenger seat of the minivan and started driving. The car was headed back to my in-laws' house. When I glanced at my father's face as he drove, he seemed to be angry. Well, any father would get angry if their daughter was treated that way. But I was taken aback because I had never seen such a look on my usually calm father's face. Then my father stormed into my in-laws' house with something in his hand. My mother-in-law came out. Oh, hello, and Happy New Year. Sorry for borrowing your minivan. Happy New Year. Speaking of which, you left our daughter behind, didn't you? No, Mary said she had a fever and couldn't go, so we had to leave her behind reluctantly. I even offered to take care of her. My mother-in-law was lying through her teeth with a smirk on her face. She definitely never said anything like that, and I wasn't even sick with a cold. I wondered how she could tell such an obvious lie. I thought something must be wrong with her brain. Oh, really? But our daughter said she was left behind. She told us she received a message on text saying it's fine if the bride doesn't come. Did I say that? I don't remember. You did. Look at this text. I showed her the text messages. However, she still insisted she was innocent. I was surprised at how thick-skinned she was to still deny it even cornered this far. In a sense, it was admirable. You're still saying that, huh? You're truly a sad person. Oh, by the way, can I charge you for the cleaning of the car interior? What? Why? Because you dirtied it with a married man nonetheless? What a filthy and disgusting scene. What? What are you talking about? This right here. What my father had in his hand was a dash cam. This one has dual cameras, so it can record not only the outside but also the inside of the car. The advantage of being able to record the inside of the car is that it can provide evidence that you were driving safely. My mother-in-law doesn't know much about car supplies or cars in general, so there's a chance she didn't realize this was a dual camera. But what was she doing with a married man in the first place? I regretted watching the footage that my father played back. After all, there were images of my mother-in-law in an indecent posture with an unknown man. Even though my father-in-law is no longer in this world, it's insane to do such a thing with a married man. And what on earth was she doing in her family car? This was on the exact day you borrowed the car. Oh, how disgusting. Wait, this doesn't mean we were doing anything dirty. It's not something perverted. My mother-in-law was in a panic, fumbling and stammering on the spot. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was on the brink of crying. I found myself curious and somewhat amused about when she would finally break down. Maybe I'm being cruel, but after all the time she tormented me, she deserves this much. I couldn't be sympathetic or kind to someone like her. Then she began making pathetic excuses. Her reasoning was all over the place. It was clear she was flustered, yet she was desperate to defend herself. Suddenly, my father pulled another item from his pocket. It was a photograph. The picture showed my mother-in-law and the man from the video engaged in assorted acts in broad daylight. It was unthinkable. The background of the picture suggested it took place somewhere secluded, but the audacity to do this in the daytime was still shocking. You wouldn't have seen these if you hadn't been mean to my dear Mary. Why do you have that picture? Because I'm a detective, remember? Oh, do you recall now? Look, I've been telling you this all along, haven't I? My father is a detective, which explains why he had such a photograph. Coincidentally, the wife of the married man in the picture had hired him for an infidelity investigation. It turns out the wife of this man hired me to investigate her husband's affair. I was surprised to discover you were the other woman. I was going to inform her next week, but I didn't expect to show you this so soon. Ha! No, I'm innocent. I was just forced into an unpleasant situation. I am not at fault. Please don't tell his wife. It was against your will, was it? You seem to be enjoying yourself. We also have video footage of you whispering sweet words to the man. Do you want to see it? I'm sorry. My mother-in-law collapsed to her knees and burst into tears. I watched her in a pitiful state with a cold glare. Sensing that unusual situation, my husband arrived. I had run out of patience with him too, and I proposed a divorce. I've had enough. I want to end this. Let's get divorced. What? I'll go crazy if I stay in this horrible family any longer, so I'm leaving. Hold on. What will happen to our living expenses if you leave? I was fired a while ago. My husband dropped a bombshell. Apparently, he had been fired at the end of the year. I was taken aback. As he had not told me this despite knowing his job was terminated, he had still decided to go on a spa resort trip. He was a complete fool. I felt I had no choice but to divorce him. I took off my wedding ring and left it there. My husband desperately tried to stop me. Wait, can't you forgive me for not taking you on the spa resort trip? It's not just about the trip. I don't want to be with you or your mother anymore. If you want to live with your mother that much, then go ahead, you mama's boy. Please wait, don't go. I got a lawyer and proceeded with a divorce. My ex-husband seems to be having trouble managing his living expenses now that I'm gone. I thought he should find a new job quickly, but having been fired from his last job for theft, he'll probably struggle to find a new one. His previous company had fired him because he had been caught stealing. Apparently, they decided they couldn't trust him and didn't need someone like that. Unsurprisingly, the wife of my mother-in-law's lover demanded compensation for the affair. She ended up spending all the money left by my father-in-law to settle the payment. I haven't seen my ex-husband or ex-mother-in-law since, but I imagine they're probably living the hard life. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Currently, I'm living alone and enjoying my work. I made the right decision not to have a child with my ex-husband. Now I am enjoying a peaceful life and would be happy if I found a new love if such an opportunity arises. This is my plan to make sure to choose wisely. Hi, Eric. Mommy, you're home. Yay, where's Daddy? Eric felt uneasy when he heard this question. He looked down and said, I'm not sure. What's wrong, sweetie? Are you keeping secrets with Mommy? Eric didn't say anything but continued to look down at the floor nervously. I could tell something wasn't right. I called my husband, David. Where are you? I came for a vacation with our son. I ended the call and we quickly packed our bags and left the house. Hi, my name is Caroline and I'm 40 years old. I'm married to David, who's 42 years old. We've been married for the last 10 years. David and I used to work at the same office, which is how we met. We fell in love and got married. We were a happy couple. 2 years after David and I got married, our son Eric was born, and our family felt complete. Eric is now 8 years old. Soon after we got married, David found a better job opportunity at a different company and decided to switch. I continued working at the same company, and over time, I got promoted to a senior position. This new role required me to travel for a few days each month for business trips. When Eric was 3 years old, I was offered another promotion at work. However, it came with a condition. I would need to travel for business reasons a few days each month. I hesitated to accept because Eric was still very young, and I didn't want to leave him alone. But David reassured me. Don't worry, honey. I'll take care of Eric. Are you sure? Eric is still so little. Absolutely, he's my son too. And it's just for a few days. Okay then, I'll take the promotion. David always supported my work. He would take care of Eric when I had to go on these trips. I was really thankful to David for being so caring and supportive. Everything was going well until one day my father-in-law called. Hey David, I've been thinking about stepping down from the business. I'm getting older and can't handle the stress anymore. Is everything okay, Dad? Yeah, everything's fine. I'm just realizing I'm getting older, you know. It's time for you to take over the business. David, this isn't unexpected. I've let you have your way with everything until now, but this is something you need to do for the family. Dad, you can't make me do this. I'm not making you do anything. Just consider it. How long will you keep working a regular job? The business will give you flexibility later in life. But Dad, you're my only heir. If you don't want to take over the company, I'll have to sell it because I can't handle it anymore. I didn't intend for it to sound like that. Alright, then how about you start by working here for a month and see how it goes? But Dad, you've been running the business so smoothly for years. I'm worried I won't be able to manage it as well as you. You'll learn as you go along. I didn't know anything about business until I started doing it myself. Okay, Dad, I'll give my notice at work and wrap things up there. Even though David enjoyed his job, he knew he would have to take over the family business eventually. He was prepared for it, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. After David joined the family business, I started noticing changes in his behavior. He would come home late, spend evenings on his phone by himself, and often be away on weekends. This went on for a few months. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore and decided to talk to him about it. David, is everything okay with you? Yeah, what's up? I've noticed a change in your behavior over the past few months. What change? I don't understand what you're talking about. I wanted to address the issue so we could work on it together, but David seemed to brush off any problems. I became frustrated with his dismissive attitude. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You come home late almost every day. And when you do come home early, instead of spending time with me or Eric, you're glued to your phone. David responded firmly, I'm busy. It's not like when I worked for a company and could finish at 7 p.m. This is my business now. I have to give it attention even after I get home. I need to coordinate with other departments over the phone. What about the weekends? Yes, sometimes we have to work on weekends too. Feeling overwhelmed, I left the room to calm down. While David's reasons made sense, I couldn't shake off my concerns. I could sense a growing distance between us, though I couldn't quite explain it to David. I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt and allow him time to adjust to the business. Besides, he was a loving father to Eric and took good care of him when I was away. He even made sure to take Eric on small vacations during my business trips. As time passed, David became even busier with the business. Sometimes he wouldn't come home at all. Despite living under the same roof, we hardly communicated. I started wondering if my work was causing this distance between us. I often felt lonely, with no one to confide in. My parents were elderly, and I didn't want to burden them with my problems. I had lost touch with most of my friends as I became preoccupied with family and work. David's presence in my life seemed minimal. My only solace was Eric. Although he was too young to understand my troubles, spending time with him brought me joy and relief. However, I began to notice changes in Eric. His grades were dropping, and he was spending excessive time playing video games. David spoiled him with expensive video games and toys, which only seemed to worsen the situation. The next time David brought home expensive video games for Eric, I couldn't help but feel concerned. I disagree, David. Eric already has plenty of video games and toys. Adding another one isn't necessary. What do you mean? Can't I give gifts to my own son anymore? What's the problem? Eric's grades have been slipping, and he's constantly distracted by video games. It's not good for his development. He's my son. He'll figure it out on his own. You don't need to interfere. He's my son too, David. I want to make sure he's raised to be educated and responsible. Are you implying that I'm irresponsible? I've been looking after Eric since he was 3 years old while you were away on your business trips. I was taken aback by his accusation. He had willingly taken on the responsibility of caring for Eric, and as his father, it was his duty too. But it was you who encouraged me to take the promotion and said you take care of Eric. Yes, I did. You should appreciate my support instead of constantly criticizing me. I've always appreciated your support for me. That's why I'm still here, despite your distant behavior. His words hit me hard, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Please don't try to paint yourself as the victim here. I lost my temper and yelled at him. I'm done with you. I don't feel any affection or gratitude towards you anymore. Taking care of Eric was your responsibility as a parent. I don't owe you anything for that. David shouted back, You're so ungrateful. Women like you can never be happy or keep their husbands happy. It was the first time David had spoken to me like this. Even when we weren't getting along, He had never been cruel. But now, he seemed like a different person. His words cut deep, and I couldn't help but cry. I locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed uncontrollably. Eric overheard our argument. When he saw me locked in the bathroom for a long time, he started knocking on the door, crying, "Mommy, please come out." Eventually, I washed my face, unlocked the door, and hugged him. "Mommy, I was scared when you stayed in there for so long." "I'm sorry, honey. I was just taking a long bath. But your hair is still dry." I chuckled and pinched his cheeks. "You're quite clever, aren't you? How about spaghetti for dinner?" Eric's eyes lit up. Yes, spaghetti. His excitement brought a smile to my face, pushing aside my worries. Meanwhile, David remained on the couch, engrossed in his phone. I prepared dinner for Eric and tucked him into bed. With an early flight for my business trip the next morning, I packed my bags and left a note with my travel details on David's desk. Since our relationship had grown distant, I always left a note with my travel plans for David so he could make arrangements for Eric or take him to my in-laws' house the next day. I went on my scheduled trip, but the recent arguments with David weighed heavily on my mind. I couldn't focus on my work. By the second day, I started feeling feverish and weak, so I decided to cut my trip short. I contacted my manager and explained that I was feeling unwell. They arranged for me to return home immediately. When I got back, I was looking forward to spending quality time with my son. However, when I arrived home, I found the front door locked and the lights off. I used my spare key to unlock the door and went inside. The house was dark, so I turned on the lights and headed upstairs to Eric's room. There, I found Eric playing with his video games on his bed. "Hey Eric, sweetheart. What are you doing here? And why are all the lights off in the house?" Excited to see me, Eric ran over. "Mommy, you're back. Yay, where's Daddy?" Eric seemed uneasy when I asked about his dad. He avoided eye contact and mumbled, I don't know." "When did he leave, sweetie?" "I'm not sure, Mommy. Dad told me not to say anything." "What do you mean, honey? What's going on? Why are you keeping secrets from Mommy?" Eric remained silent, his eyes fixed on the floor nervously. I could tell something wasn't right. Worried, I called my husband. "David, where are you?" "I came for a vacation with our son." I was shocked and devastated. David had been lying to me, and Eric had heard it all. I hung up the phone, staring at David in disbelief. Eric started crying. After calming him down, Eric confessed everything to me. It was heart-wrenching to hear. "Mommy, whenever you went on a trip, Daddy left me alone in the house." "What?" He continued sobbing as I held him close. "Sweetheart, how long has Daddy been leaving you alone?" "When I was little, Daddy took care of me and never left me alone. But now he locks me inside the house. He leaves food in the fridge for me and gives me video games to play." "And when does your father come back?" "Daddy comes home late at night and leaves again in the morning," Eric replied. I couldn't believe what my son had been going through while I was away. I felt guilty for leaving him in David's care. "Why didn't you tell me, sweetheart?" "At first, Dad would leave me alone for a few hours, but he always brought back lots of chocolates and toys for me. But now he's gone for the whole day. He made me promise not to tell you anything. I hate seeing him cry like this." "Okay, calm down now. Mommy's here." "I'm sorry, Mommy, for getting the new video games. I kept my promise and didn't tell you anything." "I'm sorry, sweetheart, that you had to go through all of this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What kind of father would do such a thing?" David was rewarding Eric for keeping this terrible secret. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't bear to stay in that house any longer or let my child be around such a man. We packed our bags and left immediately. I hired an investigation agency to look into David's actions. After dropping Eric off at my aunt's house, I went to David's parents and told them everything. My mother-in-law couldn't believe that David could do such things. "Caroline, please don't rush into anything. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. It's not wise to make such a big decision based solely on what Eric says. He's just a child." "What do you mean?" "I know you're trying to help, but I can't even think about talking to David right now. How can I trust him after all of this?" I was too angry to grasp her suggestion properly, even though she probably meant well. "Do you really believe Eric would make up something like this? And why would David lie to me about being on vacation with Eric?" "Well, maybe he was just caught up with work." I lost my patience and decided to lay everything out. This incident isn't isolated. Your son has been distant since he joined the family business. He comes home late, hardly spends time with Eric, and often spends his weekends away. Are you suggesting that all of this is because David joined the family business? My father-in-law interrupted. Brianna, let her speak, he said. Caroline is right. I never imagined David would change like this after joining the business. Some of my senior employees mentioned David's growing closeness with his assistant. What? Why did he tell me about this? I brushed it off as workplace gossip. People tend to enjoy spreading rumors like that, my father-in-law explained. I never thought David would do something like this. He loved you and Eric so much. I should have taken it seriously. I regret it now. Please forgive me, Caroline, he pleaded. I sat there in shock, unable to say anything. Brianna looked equally stunned. They both seemed devastated. David had always been seen as the perfect son, husband, and father. He had let everyone down. I couldn't blame my father-in-law because I, too, had never suspected David of having an affair despite our relationship growing colder. I attributed it to our busy schedules. I had foolishly hoped that once Eric grew up and we were free from parental duties, we'd be happy together again in our retirement. But now, everything felt shattered. After leaving my in-laws' house, I started receiving calls from David. I assumed my in-laws had spoken to him. I ignored his calls and blocked his number. I stayed with my aunt for a few days while searching for a new place to live. Eventually, the investigation agency sent their reports, confirming my suspicions. David had indeed been having an affair with his assistant, Lily. He would skip work and spend the day at her place whenever I was away. I hired a lawyer and sent divorce papers along with the evidence I received from the agency. It turned out that Lily was a single mother to a 5-year-old girl. She had been divorced by her ex-husband due to an extramarital affair during her pregnancy. When she applied for her job, she portrayed herself as a victim, claiming she divorced her husband because he cheated on her while she was pregnant. Despite her lack of qualifications, my father-in-law had given her a job out of sympathy. She deceived everyone in the office with her false story. It seemed she had also used the same tale on David. However, the investigation revealed her true nature. Further digging uncovered details about her ex-husband. He had divorced Lily without providing any alimony or child support, alleging that the baby was not his. A DNA test confirmed his claim. I forwarded all these details to David through my lawyer. According to my lawyer, David was devastated by the evidence and ended things with Lily. He accused her of breaking into our house. David wasn't ready to let go of our marriage. He loved Eric deeply and couldn't bear the thought of losing him. He admitted to my lawyer that he had been influenced by Lily and begged for another chance. He also confessed that it was Lily's idea to leave Eric alone at home, mirroring her own situation with her daughter. If it had only been me hurt by David's actions, I might have considered giving him another chance. But now it was a matter of my child's safety and upbringing. I couldn't raise Eric with a father who would bribe him into lying. After enduring so much pain, I was determined to get a divorce. It wasn't just a matter of days or months. David had betrayed my trust for years, yet I had never doubted his loyalty. I couldn't forgive him for breaking that trust. I refused any settlement other than divorce. My father-in-law apologized for David's actions and supported me throughout this ordeal. The news of David's affair and our divorce spread like wildfire throughout the office, leading to gossip and speculation. Unable to bear the shame, my father-in-law removed David and Lily from the company. He took charge again for a few years before selling the company to another businessman for a substantial sum. David's name was removed from his parents' will, and instead, Eric inherited his grandfather's legacy. David was disowned by his parents as he had shattered their trust too. David relocated to another part of the city where he faced judgment from the community for his infidelity with his assistant. Meanwhile, I transferred to a different department where I didn't have to travel as much. This allowed me to balance my work and home life more effectively. I hired a full-time nanny to care for Eric, ensuring he received the attention and care he deserved. I'm considering leaving my job in a few years. I've saved enough for my retirement and want to enjoy life to the fullest with my son. My greatest wish is for Eric to grow up into an educated and responsible individual, and I'll do everything in my power to ensure he receives the best upbringing possible. Hi, I'm Jenna and I'm 40 years old. I've been through a lot with my in-laws mistreating me like many other women have. But my experience is unique because I found a way to stand up for myself. I want to share my story to help others facing similar struggles. It all began when my husband told me, "I have something important to tell you." "What's wrong, honey? Is everything all right?" "No, I'm scared. I saw my mom and sister do something really bad." "What? What did they do?" "I finally understand. I don't think these women have your best interests at heart, and I'm truly sorry for not believing you before." Micah was talking about all the times when Gladys and Hannah, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, treated me unfairly. They would ruin my outfits for special events, mess with my food and drinks to embarrass me, and even spread lies about my successful business, all because they resented me for marrying their son and brother. I had complained to Mako about their behavior countless times, but he never took me seriously. However, in this moment, he finally did. "Well, what changed your mind?" "I saw this." Mako showed me security camera footage from our business. My husband and I sell crocheted items, like baby clothes and purses. It's a business I started and have been passionate about, but Gladys and Hannah always tried to discourage me from pursuing it. "Are you sure you should be involved in this business? It's not going to succeed, especially with your lack of expertise." "Excuse me?" What she means is that you're not capable enough to handle this business. You should just give up and focus on being a housewife or finding a regular job. Starting a business is too difficult for someone like you. You understand what I'm saying? These women always tried to stop me from doing things that made me happy. I think they were jealous because why else would they behave so horribly? My suspicions about them being mean finally became clear when they tried to embarrass me. Even when I showed my ruined dress to my husband, begged him to taste my tampered food, and proved their lies about my business, he didn't believe me. He had to see it for himself. And finally he did. The video Micah showed me was shocking. I couldn't believe people would do something so terrible. In the video, we could see two masked women, one taller and one shorter, vandalizing our building with spray paint. Take a closer look. Notice the lady with the necklace. I looked closer, and it seemed like Gladys' unique necklace that Micah brought her from Fiji. I understand now. Who else could it be? They look so similar. I believe you now. Tears welled up in my eyes. I felt both angry and hurt because it took him so long to believe me, but I also felt relieved that someone finally understood my struggles. I didn't want to tell him about this because they were his family. I couldn't just speak badly about them or take them to court for the damage they caused. But I did want to get back at them, and I had been thinking about how to do it for a long time. Suddenly, Micah's phone rang, and it was Hannah. "Speak of the devil, right?" He answered and talked to her for a bit. When he hung up, he said, "So Hannah just told me that Uncle Peter is back from his trip, and Mom wants to have a big family gathering since a lot of people are home for the summer." "Okay, when? This weekend?" "Are you going to talk to them about what we saw in the video?" "I want to, but it's hard for me. They're my mother and my sister, you know. But if you want to confront them, I'll support you in any way I can." The weekend arrived and Micah and I got to Gladys' house early to help prepare for the big family gathering. Uncle Peter was everyone's favorite, so his return after a long absence would be a special occasion. When we arrived, I noticed that both Hannah and Gladys' attitudes changed from happy and smiling to jealousy and disgust. "Oh, you two are here early." "Yeah, Mom, we wanted to lend a hand. We know there will be a lot of guests today. Aren't you sweet? We're happy to help." As I spoke, Hannah and Gladys both turned their gaze toward me, giving me looks as if I had done something wrong. But they couldn't prove it yet. "Oh, Jenna, it's awful that your lovely business was vandalized like that. I saw it on my way here. Such a tragedy." "Absolutely dreadful, indeed. Even a child could sense that these women were up to something sneaky. Despite their outward concern, they seemed unusually cheerful, almost gleeful. I even caught them trying to suppress a laugh. But I had to stay quiet. I didn't want to cause a scene just yet. I was determined to get my revenge at the right time, so for now, I bided my time. I know it's just terrible. We're both wondering who could have done such a thing. Yeah, it was really upsetting to see something we put so much effort into being damaged like that." "Right, but don't worry, the police will investigate." "The police? Why involve them for such a small crime? It's probably just some kids messing around. No need to make a big deal out of it." "Oh, Hannah, It's kind of you to care about these supposed troublemakers, but they should still face consequences for their actions. They knew what they were doing. I agree with Hannah. We all did silly things as teenagers. Let's not dwell on it. Come on, let's focus on getting everything ready for the party. I could sense that they were nervous, trying to brush off the whole incident after asking so many questions about it. Micah and I exchanged a knowing glance and joined in to help with the party preparations. We spent the whole morning and early afternoon setting up, cooking, and cleaning. By 3 p.m., family members started arriving for the reunion. After finishing our tasks and relaxing a bit, Micah pulled me aside. I have something for you. It's a hidden microphone. I want you to wear it. What? Why? What's going on? I'm not strong enough to confront my mother or sister. I'm sorry I'm not as assertive as you want me to be, but maybe this is better. If you expose them, you'll get all the credit. You've always been stronger than me. Wear the mic and approach them. You might uncover something and get justice. I won't stop you. I appreciated Micah's support, even though I wished he would be more confrontational. With that, I put on the mic, hit record, and went to find those two troublemakers. I finally found them talking in the kitchen, deep in a heated discussion. Before I entered, I listened at the door to hear what they were saying. She's on to us, Mom. Did you see the way she looked at us? Stop it, Hannah. You're overreacting. She doesn't know it was us. I swear, Mom, she knows everything. Okay, calm down. Even if she suspects something, what can she do? Micah loves us, and she loves Micah. If she did find out, she'd probably tell him. And then Micah would just brush it off, saying she's imagining things. That's what's been working for us so far, hasn't it? What do you mean? Remember when we ruined her dress before her crush at business pitch? Or when we messed with her food and drink? She told Micah about it. There's no way she didn't share her suspicions with him. But because he loves us, he overlooked it. He'll do the same now. I couldn't stand their villainous conversation any longer, so I burst into the room. Even though I'd been recording everything, I was worried the microphone hadn't picked up enough evidence. I needed to get closer to gather more proof against them for my revenge. Hey, you two, Uncle Peter will be here soon. Do you need help with anything else? Jenna, you scared us. Yes, Jenna, I have a weak heart. Don't startle me like that again. Apparently not weak enough. What did you just say? Oh, it's nothing. Just that you seem pretty energetic for someone your age. Energetic? How so? Well, I could have sworn I saw you doing something active recently. Maybe it was a dream, but I remember seeing you in black clothes, wearing a mask. They paused for a moment, catching on to what I was implying. Bingo. Yeah, I think you were up to something quite serious. What exactly are you implying? I think you know exactly what I mean, Gladys said, closing the door for a more private conversation. What are you trying to suggest? Hannah asked. I'm not trying to suggest anything. Well, we have no idea what you're talking about, so stop now. I'm not sure. Honestly, I think I might have also seen someone else with their face covered, along with the other person doing something illegal. What a shame. I hope they catch those criminals soon. Anyway, Mom, I think we should leave now. Not so fast, Hannah. I want you both to see something. What's that? I then showed them the video footage that Micah had shown me. Oh, you caught the vandals. Well, now that we know who they are, there's no need to look into it any further. Let's just drop the issue. Jenna, you're being unbearable with this. Vandalism happens to other buildings too, you know. Yeah, Jenna, just move on. It's not worth all this fuss. Actually, ladies, I think it is a big deal. I found something interesting in this video. Take a closer look. Both of them leaned in and zoomed in on the phone screen to see what I was talking about. The horror and shock on their faces confirmed all my suspicions. They were the ones who had vandalized my building. I knew it, Mom. Quiet, this doesn't prove anything. Who else has this necklace, ladies? I can't handle it anymore. Okay, it was us. Hannah, don't you dare say another word. Well, Mom, she's figured it out. I don't know what you want me to say. Yes, Jenna, we did it. We damaged your business. But what are you going to do about it? Yeah, Jenna, there's nothing you can do in this situation. We know that Micah cares more about us than he does about you. So even if you try to take action, he won't punish us because he loves us. He really does love you guys, and he probably won't do anything. But sweetie, why do you think I won't? Do you think I'm afraid of you too? You mess with my business, which is like my child. I won't let you off the hook. Gladys and Hannah both tried to grab the phone from me, but thankfully I was faster and managed to escape. Come back here, you foolish girl. Even if you grab the phone, the data's already backed up, so there's no point in fighting me unless you want to worsen your already weak heart. Don't you dare provoke my mom. Do you think you're funny? Do you think you're clever? Give us the data now, or else I'll... What? Huh. What will you do? I'll hurt you in ways you never imagined. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. Please don't hurt me. You cheeky little thing. We were running around the kitchen until I finally opened the door. It's a good thing I did because right outside was Micah. Help, your mom and sister are acting crazy. I came to tell you that Uncle Peter is here. What's happening? I'll tell you what's happening. Your wife is falsely accusing us of damaging her business, and she's threatening us. That's not true. Tell them, Micah. There was silence. Micah looked upset, struggling to speak clearly. I know you're not used to arguing with your mom and sister, or arguing at all for that matter, but I need you to stand up for me, your wife, right now. Please. Still, there was silence, and Micah looked dejected. I felt a pang of disappointment. You see, honey, Micah will always side with us, not you. He loves us more. Now that's not fair. I love you all equally. You're all important to me, which makes it tough to decide. Decide what? Why not choose honesty? We both know it. You're the one who showed me the footage. What, Micah? Why would you do that? Because it's my business too, and what you did was wrong. Not just this incident, but all the other times you've hurt my wife. You need to stop, please. We'll forgive you. Speak for yourself. I'm still going to press charges. Not while I'm here. Just then, Uncle Peter, our respected guest of honor, walked in. He seemed happy but also worried because we were all here while everyone else was waiting for the celebrations to start. Oh, Peter, my dear, it's wonderful to see you. You look great. Yes, we'll start the celebrations soon. Let me take you to your special seat. Tell me all about your trip. We're not done with you, Jenna. If you try anything, I promise we'll make sure Micah divorces you. Why do you talk to Micah like he's a child? He's a grown man who can make his own choices. He wouldn't divorce me just because you tell him to, right, honey? You see, he hesitated, dropping his head for the second time in 5 minutes. I really did date a wasp. I stormed off angrily and went to the big dining table where about 30 people were sitting. I sat down, seething but trying to stay calm. Soon after, Micah and Hannah joined me. But I stayed quiet, even though Micah seemed like he wanted to say something. I was too angry at him. Eventually, Gladys and Uncle Peter arrived, and we all celebrated. Despite the uncomfortable fight earlier, the festivities began. While we were eating, my anger boiled inside me, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. Attention, everyone. I have something important to say. There are 2 people here who have always hated me, who tried to make my life miserable. Some of you might already know, but I'll make sure you all understand. I played the recording from our earlier argument for everyone to hear. People gasped and looked shocked at what they were hearing. Hannah and Gladys were frozen in their seats, denying everything and accusing me of lying. The dinner turned chaotic. I yelled at Gladys and Hannah, and they yelled back. The other adults at the table tried to figure out what was happening. Micah, as usual, stayed silent. That is, until he heard sirens, and then everyone went quiet. The police were on their way to the house. What have you done, you wretch? I'll get you. I didn't do anything. I did. I'm the one who called thee. Mom, Hannah, you need to face the consequences for what you've done. I called the police on you, and they have a warrant for your arrest, because I secretly recorded the conversation that Jenna played for everyone. We've all seen how Mom and Hannah treat Jenna, but none of us said anything, especially me. Jenna is my wife, and from now on, I'm standing by her side because she's been proven right. Mom, Hannah, please cooperate. At that moment, the police entered the house and arrested Gladys, who cursed and yelled as she was taken away. Hannah tried to run but was caught by the police. Both women were embarrassed as they were dragged out of the house. They glared at me, calling me names, and at Micah, accusing him of betrayal. After Hannah and Gladys left, the night continued, albeit a bit awkwardly. We all opened up about how toxic they were. Even Uncle Peter joked that he'd rather be in prison than be around them. We laughed and enjoyed the rest of the family reunion without them. Throughout the night, some family members received calls from a local jail. Knowing it was Hannah and Gladys, some answered and told them they needed to learn a lesson. Others pretended the network was down, and many simply refused to take the calls. Micah and I grew closer after he supported me by calling the police. Hannah and Gladys paid a fine for the damages and are out of jail, but their egos took a hit. When we see them now, they look ashamed and afraid instead of jealous and disgusted, which suits me fine. Revenge has never felt so satisfying. I now live with my parents, so why don't you, a stranger, just move into a cheap place? What's the big deal, right? I thought my husband would make me happy, but turns out he was just using me. His family betrayed me, and I was really shocked. It seemed like they hadn't even realized how naive they were. But if they kick me out, who's going to pay the bills? I realized there was no point in being part of this family, so I knew what I had to do next. I got in touch with everyone and started getting ready. What happened to all the stuff? I had a company come and take it all away. The next day, I called another company and got rid of all the furniture and appliances. My husband freaked out and started yelling. My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm 35 years old. I've been working from home since I finished college. I only have to travel once a month, but I work full-time. My company has been really understanding because both of my legs are disabled, so I use a wheelchair to get around. This happened because I had a motorcycle accident in college. A car crashed into me from behind on the highway, and I was thrown into the air. It felt like everything was moving really slowly. This is it for me, I remember thinking as I flew through the air. Luckily, I didn't die, but my legs got injured and I can't move them anymore. I've been doing rehab ever since, but they probably won't get better. I've been in a wheelchair for years now. I guess I'll probably stay single for the rest of my life. Once I accepted my condition, I started wanting to get married again. One day, my friends arranged a blind date for me, and that's when I met Ken, who's 5 years older than me. Despite his age, he looked younger. What surprised me was how immature he acted for a 40-year-old. He's very straightforward, which means he doesn't hold back. After seeing me in a wheelchair, he didn't hesitate to ask all sorts of questions like, how do you do everyday things like eating or chores? Can you manage work? Are you independent in the bathroom or for bathing? While others tiptoed around the topic, Ken asked me everything bluntly. Most people might find his approach rude, but I actually liked that he was genuinely interested in me. We went on a few more dates and eventually became a couple. I believed I could find happiness with him. At that time, I couldn't imagine being with anyone else who would want to be with me forever. So when Ken proposed just 6 months into our relationship, I was thrilled. But things took a turn after we got married. When Ken and I moved in together, we chose my rented house, which is a bit expensive but very wheelchair-friendly, probably because the previous tenant made it that way. Ken liked the spaciousness. Since I spent most of my time at home, I ended up doing most of the housework. Sometimes when I was tired, I'd ask him for help, but he'd just say he was too tired and wouldn't lift a finger, not even to help me bathe. Seriously, I'm not doing that, Ken said when I asked him for help. I technically can manage on my own, but it takes a lot longer. When I lived alone, I had a caregiver come twice a week to assist me in the bath. I was used to managing the other 5 days on my own, but I always wished Ken would help. It would be so much quicker. Every time I spent a long time getting into the bath, I stopped asking for the caregiver's help because Ken said it was a waste of money. As I was bathing, I started feeling tired in my arms. The bathroom was originally designed to be accessible, which was one of the reasons we chose the place. But when Ken took a bath first, he wouldn't tidy up afterward. He'd leave the bath bucket out and shampoo bottles on the floor, which made things even more difficult for me. Hey, could you please think about making it a little easier for me when I bathe alone? Just let me have a bath without overthinking it, I asked him. But no matter what I said, Ken wouldn't listen. This house is designed for you to live comfortably. I moved in for you and you still complain, Ken argued. You wanted to move to Ken. When did I ever say that? This house was originally my place. That's why it's set up for someone in a wheelchair. The first time I invited Ken over, he seemed impressed by the spaciousness and the appliances. I'd love to live here after we're married, he said, admiring everything. But now he complains, saying things like, this handrail is such a nuisance. It's like living in an old person's home. Why would you say that? Yeah, I should have looked more closely before, I admitted to myself. It finally dawned on me after we started living together. Ken married me because of the house, the appliances, and the fact that I could manage household chores despite my disability. Ken received praise from his colleagues and friends for being a wonderful husband, but that's far from the truth. He's just taking advantage of the fact that I can do everything by myself despite my disability. And on top of that, he's been jobless and partying every night since we started dating. Realizing all this after getting married is heartbreaking and makes me want to cry. But despite everything, I haven't broken up with him. I keep telling myself that there must be some love there since we got married, right? Hey, can you give me some allowance? Ken asked. You received some just the other day, didn't you? I replied. Yeah, but I've already spent it, Ken admitted. Slowly, Ken started to depend on me for money without putting in any effort to work for it. I decided to reach out to Ken's mother for advice. Ken doesn't seem interested in working. What should I do? He's always been hardworking. Maybe he just needs a break. Even though she told me I could talk to her about anything, she always sided with her son. She'd say, it's natural since he's an only child. But I wasn't convinced. Since I've lost both my parents, I have no other family to turn to. I felt completely lost. I thought about discussing it with a friend, but the last time I mentioned my problems, they told me, I wish I had problems like that. Ken always seems to appear fine on the surface. That evening, Ken confronted me. Did you go talking to Mom about my work? He accused. Yeah, why? Would it bother an older person like her? I can't believe you. I responded. Seriously? Well, maybe you should work so I don't have to worry, I retorted. Ken stormed out after that. It's typical of him. He always leaves when things don't go his way and then returns drunk early in the morning. I'm back, babe, he slurred. It's early, don't disturb the neighbors, I cautioned. Keep it down, I added. Shut up. Don't boss me around, he snapped back. When he's drunk, he's out of control. All I can do in situations like these is stay quiet and endure it. I think I'm reaching my breaking point. I began to entertain the idea, but the thought of facing loneliness again was heart-wrenching. I was torn between enduring the current situation or spending the rest of my life alone. The idea of divorce started to weigh heavily on my mind. Then, out of nowhere, Ken brought up the idea of living with his parents. What? You mean they'd move in here? I asked, surprised. No, they'll move in here. Ken replied as if it was already decided that they would move in, without even discussing it with me. While I understand the desire to be close to aging parents, both of Ken's parents are still healthy. I couldn't understand why they would want to leave their own home to come live with us. Do they really need to stay here? It's going to be crowded with 4 people, and I work from home, so it'll be inconvenient. I expressed my concerns. You're always thinking about yourself, huh? I never thought you were this selfish, Ken accused. I'm just saying, why do they need to move here when they have their own place? Our place is bigger, more modern, and has all the conveniences. Plus, it's accessible for elderly people, I reasoned. If Ken's parents moved in, I'd have to be on my toes during work hours. Ken is rarely home, but his parents would likely be around a lot since they're retired, sharing the bathroom, kitchen. I already move slower than most people, and I could easily imagine the strain of such a living situation. Can I have some time to think? I asked. You better hurry up. We don't have much time, Ken replied curtly. Despite Ken's insistence that there wasn't much time, he wasted no time in bringing his parents over by the weekend. It seemed like they had already discussed this move extensively. You know, I've been thinking, maybe you should consider moving to a facility, Ken suggested. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A facility for me? I was taken aback. Yeah, it's a good idea, right? You have your own limitations, right? In a facility, they take care of everything, Ken explained. It seemed like he wasn't just considering his parents moving in, but also the idea of sending me away. I'd visit you from time to time, he added casually. That statement jolted me awake. If not now, then when? Ken, what do you think I am to you, huh? You're my husband, right? Would you really tell your beloved wife to go to a facility? I confronted him. Hold on. When did I say I love you, Michelle? Ken's response made my anger boil. It was becoming increasingly clear that Ken was using me. Hadn't I known it all along? Wasn't it my fault for letting things get to this point? I felt like I needed to draw a line. Then, to my disbelief, Ken uttered even more shocking words. In this house, I'm going to live with my parents. You, an outsider, can go live in some cheap facility, he declared. What'd you just say? I looked to his parents, hoping for some support, but they just had unsettling grins on their faces. Why are you laughing? I demanded. What's the big deal, huh? Ken's parents responded with indifference. It seemed like things had been escalating too quickly lately. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe they had their eyes on my home even before we got married. I knew I had to act fast and get these people out. Please leave, I said firmly. What? Leave now, I reiterated when they hesitated. How can you talk to my parents like that? Ken snapped, his anger boiling over. It was like I was seeing the real Ken for the first time. He was yelling at me with such fury. If he cared so much for his parents, why didn't he work hard and build them a house? Why did he have to take mine? My head felt like it was on fire. It's okay, Ken. Michelle must have been shocked since we came unexpectedly. His mother intervened. We just came to check the place today, his father added. Yeah, we need to check before moving in. Looks like there are more appliances than last time. Seems comfy to live in. It became clear they were here to stake a claim on my home. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself as I filled my lungs with oxygen. Then, a sudden question popped into my mind. If I leave, how are they planning to survive? His parents are on a pension, and Ken's just a part-timer. I'm covering all the rent and living expenses. Who's going to pay the $2,800 a month? Do his parents think Ken's earning the living expenses? I voiced my concerns, but they were ignored as his parents cheerfully left. Ken followed them. I'm going to stay at my parents' tonight. Hold on, we need to talk, he said as he left. There's nothing to talk about. I, the man of the house, have decided. I won't change my mind, he declared before leaving me alone in shock. But I couldn't just stay like that. I immediately called a real estate agent I knew. Ken didn't return that night, probably celebrating with his parents. I quickly sorted out essential and non-essential belongings. When Ken returned the next day, he saw the organized stuff and laughed. Oh, started packing. Found a place to move to already? Ken asked, surprised by my swift action. Yes, I have, I replied, handing him a card. And here's the card of a divorce lawyer. Here you go, Ken. From now on, let's communicate through the lawyer. A divorce? Why? If you're kicking me out, there's no point in being married anymore, right? Ken tried to reason. Ken seemed taken aback by the mention of divorce. You can't live without me, right? He added, almost as a question. I don't understand what you mean. Who else would marry you? Ken responded, his arrogance showing. I can live on my own, but you said you wanted to get married. I reminded him. It was only then that I realized how arrogant and overconfident Ken was. He approached me thinking I was a lonely, disabled single woman. I'm independent, have money, and never struggle with my living. Plus, I stay home all the time, so I handle all the chores for him. I'm the ideal woman. Money keeps coming in even if he doesn't work. He thought I wouldn't leave because I couldn't find anyone else. That's why he was shocked when I casually brought up divorce. Why? You know, if you divorce me, you might be single for the rest of your life, Ken warned, revealing his insecurity. Well, if it means living a married life with you, I'd rather be single forever, I asserted. Whether I spend the rest of my life alone isn't for you to decide. I added, my usually submissive demeanor giving way to defiance. Ken seemed flustered, and I could tell he was panicking. I never thought he was such a weak man. I realized I had been putting up with him for far too long. Once I made the decision to divorce him, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had been too focused on getting married. Anyway, you don't have to move out right away. I didn't mean to rush you into a facility that soon, I said. Oh, it's fine. I'll do as you wish. Don't worry, you won't find a place that fast. Think it over, okay? Ken replied, trying to regain control of the situation. I've already secured a place, so it's all right, I informed Ken. What? Wait a minute, isn't this too soon? Ken responded, clearly taken aback. I observed Ken's shifting attitudes from smugness to panic. Dealing with him was becoming increasingly irritating as I calmed down. The facility staff are informed and know about my situation, so everything's fine. I reassured him, determined to move forward with my decision. When did you even set all this up? Were you preparing all along? Ken asked, clearly surprised by my sudden revelation. Yes, even before I met you, actually. I had been considering my retirement and had my eye on a certain facility. It's more like a condo. After an injury during my hospital stay, I read various investment books. I had decided to invest in stocks and real estate. I had diversified investments between my salary and my parents' inheritance. The facility I had my eye on, I had already purchased and had been renting it out for income. I never mentioned this to Ken. It's my hidden asset, I explained. We don't need to get a divorce. I get it. You can stay here. Let's live with my parents, Ken suggested. Do you not get it? Why would I ever do that? I responded firmly, feeling empowered by my newfound independence and decision-making. He seems pretty dense. Even after bringing up divorce, he still seems to believe he's the only one for me. I thought to myself. Sorry, but my mind's made up. What's your problem? I confronted Ken. You're so selfish. If you come crying back later, it's not my problem, Ken retorted. I won't be, so don't worry, I replied confidently, determined to move forward without him. Ken fell silent, lost in thought. Hours passed as I continued packing up my things. Then, I overheard Ken making a phone call. It seemed like he was speaking to his parents. It struck me as pathetic that he needed to rely on them for such decisions. Eventually, Ken approached me. Fine, we'll get a divorce. Just leave quickly, he said begrudgingly. Perhaps he would miss having me around to take care of the household chores. But he likely saw living with his parents as a way to avoid them. With that, Ken left for his parents' home. I'm going to talk to my folks about what's next. Get ready to move out quickly, he informed me. Yes, I'll do that, I replied, ready to start a new chapter of my life without him. I finished moving all my stuff within a week. During that time, Ken never showed up. We met again a day after the move was completed. As I was settling into my new home, Ken called me outside and asked, Hey, what's going on? This place is almost empty. Where are the appliances? I had a service pick up those items for me, I replied calmly. What? I had called a service the next day and had them collect all the furniture and appliances, Ken exclaimed, clearly agitated. My husband's frustration grew and he began grumbling. Not only Ken, but also his parents were there. All the appliances here were bought by me. They are all from when I was single. The only thing that's yours is right there, he pointed out. There were only 3 cardboard boxes. I did leave the clear clothing container we bought after marriage, I added. Michelle, we can't live with this. We need to split the property if we're divorcing, Ken insisted. That's right, we can't live here like this, his mother chimed in. What are you talking about? Nobody can live here, Ken protested. What do you mean? The rent's $2,000, I clarified, confused by their sudden concern. You could see the shock on Ken and his parents' faces. I reminded Ken of something I had told him when we got married. This isn't your own house. No, it isn't. I got a bit of a discount on the rent because I asked a real estate agent, I explained. I know if I move out, the rent will go up even more, given that this is a property with disability access. And I've already received several inquiries from people with the same concerns. I recommended that they move out. Why didn't you tell us sooner? What are we going to do now? Ken asked, clearly flustered. I don't know. I did tell Ken. I didn't hear about it. I'll sue you. His mother threatened, her frustration boiling over. I saw that coming, honestly. From an outsider's perspective, it might look like I selfishly got a divorce, broke the lease, and took all the furniture and appliances. But I was sure. I reflected. You can sue, but do you even have the money for it? Ken's face contorted with frustration. It was clear he couldn't afford a lawyer, even if he wanted to. I revealed my ace up my sleeve by showing them some pictures. When did you take these? Ken exclaimed in shock as he saw the images of himself gambling and womanizing. I spent my money on this. I'm ready to use these in court, Ken, I warned. What the hell? I thought everything was going well. Ken's parents expressed their agitation. What's going on? Suddenly, Ken started to apologize. I'm sorry. Please come back. I need you, Michelle, he pleaded, his tone filled with desperation. You're the one who made me leave. We're not married anymore, so what's the point? And do you even care about me? If not, I'll just go. Even Ken's parents started saying sorry beside him. We don't have a home anymore. This was a shock. What do you mean? Our house got taken away because we couldn't pay for it. Ken's family will lose their home in a few weeks. They ran out of money. Ken's dad owed a lot, and it got bigger over time. Ken used to get money from his parents, but when he got married, he probably hoped for more support. Now I get why his mom was nice to me before we got married. I can't do anything for you now. We're not close anymore. Even if my parents and I have nowhere to go, does that not bother you? You caused this situation, right? Can you at least give me the electronics and furniture? You're wealthy, Michelle. Are you going to sell them? His real reason was obvious. I told him firmly that I wouldn't give him anything, not even one piece of furniture or electronics. Please reconsider. Show some kindness. It's too late to say sorry now. You need to figure this out on your own. That's exactly why I'm asking for help. I can't figure it out. I told Ken and his dad, who kept asking. If they couldn't pay the rent, they should leave. The place is in my name, so if I cancel the lease, they have to go. Evicting them was easy. Even if the lease was transferred, Ken probably couldn't afford to live here. I got all this information from the real estate agent. I can't afford the rent, so I decided to cancel the lease. I don't need this place anymore, and since our divorce is final, it's all over. I managed to get the shocked family out and locked the door. What do we do now? I can move to a different place. Goodbye. Places like that must be awful, right? Good luck in that terrible place. Ken probably felt he needed to get the last word in, so he spat out those bitter words. I ignored him and his parents and left. But Ken wasn't done. A few days later, he showed up at the facility where I had moved. What's going on here? Ken looked like he was going to pass out when he saw where I was living. This place isn't bad at all. It's actually a luxury facility worth $1 million. I had saved up money and invested it, and that's how I bought this place. The timing was perfect since the previous occupant had just left. With the money from selling my house and some extra income, I had plenty left over. This facility is great with doctors and helpers on hand. The rooms are like apartments with lots of privacy. It's a 3-bedroom, so families can stay together. There are even couples and families living here. I can call for help whenever I need it, and there's assistance with bathing every day. Originally, I thought this would be my last home, but I'm glad I moved here. You have that much money all along. Why? I don't want you to keep coming here. We're not close anymore. Please go. Then Ken started acting nice all of a sudden, but it felt weird. Can I stay here? What? No, that's not happening. We're not married anymore. Accept that. Then let's get married again. I'm staying in a motel. Isn't that sad? I can't find a job because I don't have a permanent address. At the motel, Ken is smooth with his words. It seems like he's forgotten about his own parents. In the end, he's only thinking about himself. Why don't you take a good look at yourself? It's sad to see you living off your parents at your age, being dependent after marriage, and now begging for help. Ken's face turned red. Aren't you embarrassed to be relying on your ex-wife? Look, everyone's watching, right? Residents peeking from their balconies were indeed watching. Actually, I had asked them beforehand to keep an eye out if my ex-husband showed up. I always expected him to come back for some reason. The residents were really helpful. They purposely looked at Ken with sympathy. It's like watching a real-life drama. I want to applaud them. Ken finally noticed the stares and seemed to realize how embarrassing his behavior was. I won't bother you anymore. With a pale face, he muttered those words and left. I doubt he'll come back here again. Later, when I went out, I bumped into my mother-in-law working at a supermarket checkout. My father-in-law worked as a janitor and my mother-in-law was a cashier. As soon as she saw me, she turned away and tried to hide. She was being scolded by a younger employee for her behavior. Ken was introduced to a job by someone he met at the motel cafe, but it turned out to be a poorly paid job where he was being taken advantage of. Meanwhile, I often host home parties and enjoy my life with others from the same facility. I've also made friends with other wheelchair users. If I had known such a supportive community existed, I would have moved here earlier. I make time for physical therapy sessions, and my current goal is to regain the ability to move my legs on my own. Overall, I lead a fulfilling life, both at work and in my personal time.